Greetings, metalheads. Welcome to another edition of the Friday 13th YouTube channel. Today, you're going to be watching a fantastic interview with Arizona's thrashers Atrophy. Now, Atrophy are about to release a new album for Massacre Records, Asylum, which is a fantastic heavy thrash album. I'd like to thank Brian Zimmerman, the vocalist, for doing this interview. Brian, you rock, brother. All the best. I'd also like to thank Massacre Records and Monet for setting us up this interview. So, please share social media, thumbs up, comments, and please like. Thanks for watching, Metalheads. My interview's coming soon. Cheers. First of all, I'm going to welcome you to Friday 13th. I'm going to ask you some warm-up questions first, Brian. As a
Sure.
vocalist, who inspired you to be a vocalist? And was there anybody in your family that were that played instruments? Or I see you play guitar in the back there.
Yeah. I so my mother was she was in a band in California, and it was called the Tall Tones, and she played piano, and so music was in our house always. It was her playing, or we had the old phonographs, and she collected a lot of eclectic music, which was it could have been the steel drums from Jamaica, that kind of weird stuff.
Okay.
So I always was exposed to that kind of music, and music in general. And she was a singer as well.
Okay. All right. So what influences did your mum have as vocalist? Who inspired her to be a singer?
Are you talking about me or my mom?
Your mum first, and then I'll talk about you. What influence was your mum influenced by?
So my grandfather was a musician as well. He played the saxophone. He was a very comedic type person. So I think it's kind of a lineage in my family. So I
Right.
believe that's where she got it.
Okay, then. So for singers, and who inspired you to become a singer? Then, what metal rock singers inspired you?
Rob Halford.
Oh yeah, the God.
Yeah. Yes, sir. He just had a different man to bring operatic type of music into metal was so different. And when I first heard it, I was just blown away that he could actually make that work. So I was very inspired by him. Did I bring it into Atrophy? No, it didn't really fit. Um, and I started playing guitar in Atrophy, actually.
Okay, so what other singers inspired you besides Rob Halford?
Man, Jeff Tate,
Yeah, good one.
uh, just people who really sing. I really enjoy that. I enjoy listening to it. Um, like thrash metal, maybe early Overkill,
Yeah,
Saxon, um, even early Exodus probably inspired the way I sing now.
yeah.
Yep.
What do you think of people like Russ Anderson from Forbidden? Because he had a cool voice, didn't he? He could hit the Rob Halford notes and still be thrash.
He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. They are one of my favorite thrash metal bands. The guitar work, Paul Bostaph. I mean, I think very highly of him.
Wow, that's cool. What did you think of like rock singers like Glenn Hughes and David Coverdale, them sort of people? Where them inspire you?
Oh God, yes. Those are the the gods that inspired me to sing. Absolutely. They're all so great in their own right.
Even though you were a thrash singer, can you sing them high notes if you wanted to?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, if you go to my YouTube page, what I typically do is I think I did Fever and by Judas Priest, and then I did another song, but I will typically warm up with something that you know has a big vocal range because the Screaming Preacher, the one in Chemical Dependency, they're all super high pitch. So yeah, it's best to warm up really good before you attempt all that.
So, Brian, who do you say you're influenced by as for a thrash singer? Who's your thrash singer inspiration?
I So to be honest, I never heard thrash before when we started the band. I was playing guitar in the band, and Chris came to me and said, "Hey, I don't want you to play guitar. I want you to sing. We need two solo guitar players," which I did not do. And I was I was actually hurt. I was like, "Damn, dude, I don't want to be the front man. I want to be just a guitar player." So uh, the summer before that, I went out to go see. I think it was Forbidden. I'm sorry, Violence and Exodus, and that was in 1986. And so I came back. I started listening to some of that stuff, and I started listening to Overkill. And I wanted to be somewhere in between. I wanted to sing, but not be too brutal. So I think they were my two main influences in thrash because at that time it was very new, you know.
Okay, then. So, what was your first band before Atrophy? What was your first band?
Atrophy.
Really? Okay, you didn't do
Yeah,
anything before that.
no. No, I did not. In fact, Chris never did anything before. Um, I don't believe James had, you know, and I think that helped us form an original sound. So we weren't pulling from other experiences that we had.
Originally, you were formed, obviously you were formed back in 1986. You was originally called Heresy. Now, there's a band in
Yeah.
England. There was a band in England called Heresy, which were like a hardcore punk band. Is that why you
Yep.
changed the name?
Exactly. So we were looking for a name, and we picked Heresy, and then we found out that that name had been taken. So Chris was going to school for pre-med, and we had a talk one day, and we said, well, we wanted a name that started with A, so we didn't get lost in the sea of albums and when people were looking for the record. And he came up with the name, and I went home and I drew the logo that's behind you.
Yep.
Um, and everybody was like, "Holy shit, this is great!" And we became Atrophy.
So,
Yep.
what does Atrophy mean? What does it mean?
So atrophy is a basically a medical name, and it's the decomposition of cell or muscle structure. As we get old, we atrophy, and that's why we don't retain muscle anymore. And atrophy can be, this is way off the charts, but uh, if you look up atrophy, one of the things that will pop up is vaginal atrophy, and it's it's just when those muscles quit working, they kind of they atrophy. Yeah,
Interesting name. Interesting name. I
yeah,
don't know what you would call that. So, you guys formed with Chris and James and Tim and Rick. Do you actually see
yep.
those band members anymore? Because I used to be really good friends with Chris. What's he doing now?
He is a ear, nose, and throat specialist in Scottsdale, Arizona. Uh, you know, Tim, I spoke to him 2 years ago. Rick, I spoke to probably 2.5, 3 years ago. And then James just hit me up on Facebook. So yeah, I think Tim's mad at me because I took the name.
Why is he
But for
mad at
seven,
you? Why is it mad at you? Because I know when Atrophy originally reformed, Tim was in the band, but I don't think he was, or was you?
uh, yeah, Tim was in the band, I was in the band, and James was in the band,
Right.
and and so I asked him if he wanted to play drums, and he said no. So
Well, that's
that's
not
that.
your fault, is it? If you want to take the name and you drew the logo,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
are you still talking to those guys? I mean, what's the rest of the guys doing other than
um,
Chris?
James is disabled now.
I'm
He's
sorry to
has
hear
a
that. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it sucks. He has diabetes and a whole host of other stuff. He's had some toes removed, I believe.
Ouch.
Um, yeah, it's a terrible disease. Um, I think Tim's still playing in Tucson with a band called Scars of Atrophy.
Okay.
And
That's a bit of a weird name, Scars of Atrophy. It's almost like he's kind of bitter towards what's happening now.
probably
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Uh, I I told the guys if they want to continue on and um, play music and even play some of the songs, that was fine. But I'd prefer if they didn't use the logo or the name. I didn't want the confusion out there, and they went ahead and used it. So uh, it is what it is. And Rick has a really good job. He works in Tucson, Arizona for a defense contractor. And that's it.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the first album then, Socialized Hate. Why did you decide to call that album Socialized Hate? Obviously, it was released in 1988. Was it Roadrunner or Road Racer?
It was both, actually.
It's kind of
So
confusing,
Road,
isn't it?
it is. When we got the album back, it says Roadrunner, Road Racer, MCA. And MCA was a distribution company that we were on. Uh, Roadrunner was the American version of Road Racer. So, it's just the way they had it set up, I guess. The reason we called it that was when it was after that song that we wrote, Socialized Hate. And that was one of the new songs that we had. If you listen to, if you've ever heard our demo tape, uh, that wasn't included on it. So I thought it was a very strong, fast song.
was
And
that the Chemical Independence demo?
yes, yes, it
Right.
was.
Okay.
So I guess we felt it was probably the strongest song on the album, and we decided to go ahead and use that.
Okay. So what's your favorite songs from that debut album?
Oh my God. Uh, Chemical Dependency, Preacher, and Product of the Past, and Socialized Hate. Those are my songs that I still play them to this day. Um, I just love them. They're very well written.
Did you do much touring for that album? Because it
Yeah,
received really good reviews, didn't it? In Metal Forces and
it did. It kind of blew me away how good the reviews were. Um, we did tour. We did a United States tour with Sacred Reich back in the day, and we went all the way up into Canada, and I still have that shirt somewhere, but I think we did around 30 dates off that.
wow, awesome. So I mean, the next song you did is Socialized Hate, which Violent by Nature. Good.
Yeah,
That's when I saw you with Sacred Reich. I mean, that was how do you see that as a progression from the first album?
I I think the writing was probably a little more mature. I think would be the right word. It's not quite as fast or quite as crazy as the first one, and I think the first one we just it's that energy, bah, coming out of the hole. And so I think the second album was just a little more maturity in the writing process.
I know you're from is it Arizona, and you're very good friends with Sacred Reich. You were kind of similar style to them. No disrespect to you, but you had your own style, but you could tell that there was like you two guys were trading off each other. Do you agree with me on that?
I guess I do. Um, so it's kind of weird. The whole Bay Area sound bled into Tucson and Phoenix, um, and I think we do have a similar style. Um, and they're a great band. I absolutely love Sacred Reich.
What about Flotsam and Jetsam? They were kind of close to your area. Did you kind of have their vibe in your music as well?
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Flotsam and Jetsam. Back in the early days, I met Dave Mustaine. We went up to Phoenix to go see uh, Megadeth and Flotsam and Jetsam. And back in those days, they rode around in a white van, and there's stories about it. And me and Chris pulled up, and uh, the doors open, and the band members come out, and smoke's pouring out. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And they asked if we smoke weed, and I'm like, well, hell yeah. So we used to go up probably at least 3 times a year just to go see Flotsam and Jetsam. And that was back when Newstead was back in the band.
Wow.
They were absolutely amazing. Eric AK, my God, he's a great singer.
Wow.
You
So, I
talk
mean,
about metal singers, holy shit.
yeah, he is a good singer. I mean, back in the day, I mean, I don't know if Rob Halford still lives in Arizona. Did he ever come to any of your shows?
He he did not. We did have a benefit show that we played at, and I do have pictures of it somewhere. Um, it was Rob Halford, and we were supposed to be on the bill. Something happened. I don't know if he got sick, and they canceled, so we didn't get a chance to play. But if I ever meet him, I'll give him a big hug, man, because yeah, he still lives there. He lives up in Phoenix.
I know I'm going to be meeting him in a couple of weeks because I'm off to a Judas Priest Q&A meeting. So I'm going to be in London. So I'm hoping
Oh, nice.
I'm going to ask him a question why Judas Priest don't do a full tour with an orchestra. That's my question to Judas Priest. I think that would be a kick
Wow,
ass. If they release that as a live DVD, it'd be fucking amazing.
it would.
So I mean
You
that
could.
I mean I saw you on that tour, the Violent by Nature tour with Sacred Reich. I mean I saw you in Bradford. What memories do you have from that tour? Did you go for a curry in Bradford, by the way, when you were there?
Did I go for a what?
A curry.
What? A curry bratwurst type
Yeah, no,
thing?
no curry, like Indian curry.
Yes, we did. um, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Gone.
but we went to, I think before the show, we went to, or we had a day off there, and we were in England, and that's when Phil Rind was thrown through a plate glass
Yeah,
window.
is the wheat sheaf in Bradford.
Yes, sir.
I
So,
remember it.
so what happened was we had a day off, and Gloria wanted to go to a bar, and we went there, and Phil had a plastic saxophone. And so we parked the tour bus and we walked up there, and I walked in there and I'm like, wow, this is pretty quiet and pretty weird. Just had a feeling. And I walked into the bathroom, and do you remember my metal jacket? It had all the painting on it with
Yeah,
the okay,
yeah,
so it probably wasn't a good thing to wear in there. I'm sitting at the urinal. This guy comes in. I'm 6'2". This guy comes in and he's like 6'6", 260 pounds. And he pulls out his thing and he's all, "What brings you boys in, mate?" And I said, "Well, we're in a band and have a few drinks." I believe my drummer was on the other urinal. We walk out and I turned to him and I said, "I'm going back to the tour bus." "All right, dude." So I walked out. I literally got to the tour bus, and our roadie came in and they broke his nose. He had blood all running down his face. And then Phil came in a moment later. Apparently, they grabbed him and pulled his leather jacket over his head and just threw him through the plate glass window. And
wow.
he wasn't too hurt that I remember, but they we were on somebody's turf and they
I,
did
th-
not like it.
I think what I remember rightly, that did Phil have a leather jacket on with a patch on the back that they didn't agree with? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
Um, I, to my knowledge, they were supposed to be uh, the UK's version of the Hells Angels, and that actually appeared on MTV. It was just a
Well,
short blurb, and yeah, it was crazy. But that was one of the crazy times that we had on the tour.
so I mean, other than that, why did you guys break up? What was the reason? Because Violent by Nature was such a great album. You were just on a roll. You're doing some really good tours, and then you finished. Why?
So I can tell you, um, you know, I think it was in 91, 92. Um, grunge came out
Yeah.
and it absolutely killed the industry for us. Um, our record label, we got a call from our manager, and they said they want you in the studio now. And I'm like, now? Like, I hadn't even heard the songs the guys had been working on. So we apparently they had 4 songs. I had no vocals written at all for these songs. And we show up in the studio, and now Chris is gone. He went to medical school, and we had a replacement guitar player. And we go in the studio, and James Gulotta hands me a notebook. And on this notebook was lyrics that was for one song that was 3 pages long. And I look at it and I said, what do you want me to do with this? He's like, well, it's a song about this woman who has 7 different personalities. And I said, James, I cannot fit this in this. I don't know what you want me to do. And he was adamant, dude, you can do it. We have faith. Go in the studio and do it. It was a disaster. It was not good. And so we sent the 4 songs back to Massacre, and Road Racer, and they dropped us. And there was no second chance, no, we'll do better, nothing like that. It was kind of happened as quick as we got signed. They were just like, done.
Wow.
And so at that time, my daughter was 2 years old, and it was time for me to be a father and take that seriously and not try to be a musician. And, back then we weren't getting money of any kind from our label. We got tour support, we got money for the records, but as far as living off money, we didn't get anything. So, I had to make a living and support my family.
Wow. So just before we finish talking about Violent by Nature, what's your favorite songs from that album?
Violent by Nature is one of my favorites. In Their Eyes, and of course, Puppies and Friends. I still kind of like Too Late to Change. Process of Elimination, Right to Die. I think those are all killer songs.
Okay, then. Just something else I forgot to ask you very earlier on, Brian. What was your guitar influences? Because we spoke about your vocal influences. Oh, because you played guitar before vocals. Oh, what was your influences on guitarists?
Oh my God. I'm more of a rhythm player than I am a soloist. So I liked Hetfield back in the day. I liked Dave Mustaine, Exodus's style, the way they play. Of course, the anybody who plays with soul. I like even Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
Incredible guitar player. But I like that real fast drill picking type of guitar playing. It's very cool.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the new album, Asylum, which is coming out very, very soon. Tell me, what made you want to come back after so long? Was it something to do with the fan base? People asking you why don't you reform? What happened? What was the reason?
So the reason was in 2016. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, brother.
In 2016, when we reunited, and then we had done some really killer stuff. We had done Maryland Death Fest, and we were playing with bands like Testament, Hyrax, The Haunted, and we talked about writing a new album. And I said, wow, that's going to be a very hard task with a new guitar player. So I live in Arkansas. They live in Tucson, Arizona. And our guitar player at the time, Casper Garrett, had 3 pretty good songs. Trying to get that song from him on a DAW, a normal format today recording, was impossible. They just sent me audio from it, and it was pretty good, but I couldn't really do anything with it. And our guitar player at the time, Rich Olson, he had 3 songs, and those were also good. Now, Rich was fired because he didn't get along with James, whatever, and so those songs went bye-bye. Casper was in a terrible car accident, and he left the band. Those songs went bye-bye. So Bobby Stein came into the band, and him and Tim started writing. And Bobby was in the band for about 3 years, and I think they had a total of 5 songs. And one of them was really good. One of them had really good potential. And we released one song in 2019 called Riptide. And again, it wasn't recorded properly on a DAW. They went to a studio, they recorded live, which blew me away. I'm like, yeah, you do the guitar tracks separate, it was just a live recording. And they sent that to me, and I put vocals on it and sent it to a producer, and we did release that one. And so the other songs needed some work, and we went to Europe, and we got caught in the coronavirus. We came back home, and then again, I tried to do a bunch more writing on the songs that they had. Still, they weren't on a DAW, so I could work with them in my studio. So some stuff I felt needed to be changed, and they didn't want to change anything. Tim came to me and said, well, we have 4 guys here who like it. And it was kind of tough shit if I didn't. And it was very hard to put vocals on those songs and make them sound like Atrophy. It just didn't work. So in 2021, I started working with another guitar player, and his name is Mark Coglan. And in the meantime, Craig and Lump from Heathen, he has been helping me get both albums released, get the other albums released digitally. He said, I have a couple labels who are interested in you, and can you send me some songs? And I said, man, I said, all I have is the songs that we did with Tim and Bobby, and I don't think they're up to par, but here you go. Those are the songs they did in the studio. He wrote me back or called me, I don't remember, and he said, dude, what is that half a song that was in there? And I said, oh man, I'm sorry, that was something that I'm working on with Mark. I didn't mean to send that to you. And he said, no, dude, why aren't you doing that? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we will. So he said, dude, finish the song. I'll put a lead on it, and we'll send it to the record labels. And boom, got signed that quick. And so I now had a record deal. I once again called Tim and said, hey man, I got a record deal. Do you want to do this? Yeah, man, I'll talk to you. We need to talk. 6 months go by, and I said, you know what? This is amazing. I got a record deal. I'm going to take it. And so I did. And the record label wanted a picture of who was in the band, which was only me and Mark at the time. And Tim saw it on Facebook, and he said, dude, what the hell is going on? I'm hurt, and I'm this. And I said, dude, I told you I had a record deal. You chose not to contact me. And, if you want to be in the band, you can be in the band. So I sent him a couple snippets of other songs we had. And Tim told me directly, I'll stick with what I'm doing. I said, okay, I understand. I respect you, for that. And we moved forward and created this wonderful album that's behind you.
Wow. So, Mark, what band was Mark in before Atrophy?
Mark has been in several bands. One was in Tucson. It was called Punishment.
I know they are.
Um,
Yeah.
and another band that he wrote the entire album is called Condemned to Dream. And it's kind of Gothenburg death metal stuff. And in fact, in 2019, he asked me to do vocals on one of the songs. And that's when I really heard his potential. His guitar playing is almost identical to Chris's, but it has that flair of the Gothenburg stuff. Very, very cool guitar playing. And so that's how I found him, and that's why I started writing with him.
Right. But Nathan, where did you find Nathan for guitars?
Nathan found me on Facebook, and he sent me a personal message, and he said, "Hi, my name's Nathan. I saw there's only two people standing there. If you need a shredder, hit me up." So I laughed at him. I'm like, "Who is this guy? He's 34 years old." So I messaged him and I said, "Dude, what have you done before?" He said, "Well, I wrote my own album and I went on tour with bands from Uli John Roth to Ingve Malmsteen and he wasn't in the band. He was on tour with them in another band. And I watched some of his guitar playing. I'm like, holy crap, he is incredible. And I said, "I'll tell you what, Nathan." I said, "I don't know if we're going to bring you in the band, but I'll give you a shot." And that's how I met him, was on Facebook. And I'll tell you a quick story. So he went to the Guitar Institute in California and studied guitar. He is also a guitar teacher. And he was telling me this story. When they had days off, they would go into the library and they would research 80s bands. And we popped up and he's like, "Dude, I love your guitar playing and the style." And that's how he knew of Atrophy before, was from the internet.
Okay. I mean, Josh on bass guitar. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Josh with Malevolent Creation?
Yes, sir, he
Because
is.
I'm good friends with Phil. I've known Phil for many years.
Nice. So I don't know if you remember, Phil had broke his leg
Yeah.
on a tour, and the band was just kind of didn't know what direction they were going to be heading in. And one of our Facebook fans actually contacted Josh, and he said, "Dude, they're looking for a bass player. This is your shot, dude. This is one of my favorite bands." And Josh didn't know much about the band, and he said, "Well, just send me a couple songs you want me to play." So I sent him "Preacher, Preacher" and another song, and he killed it, absolutely killed it. And so Josh is playing on the album as well. He's a great guy, man. I love Josh.
Is he still with Malevolent Creation?
He is, yes. He's still
That's
touring with
cool.
them.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about Sage? What did you find Sage?
So I put out a word that we were looking for a drummer, that Tim didn't want to join. We were looking for a live drummer because we had a friend of ours do the drumming on the album, and Alex Marquez
Oh no,
was gonna,
Alex. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna see if you wanted to join, and he said, "Well, I'm having a problem with diabetes in my feet, and I'll tell you who you should get is this guy Sage." And Sage has been to a couple of our concerts, and so I hit him up, and he was like, "Hell yeah, I want to do it." So that's where we found him, and he's from Phoenix as well.